To help us know more about small cap funds today, we have with us Chirag Mehta, CIO and Fund Manager, Quantum Mutual Funds. Chirag has close to 2 decades of experience in financial markets. He is also in the International Committee on ESG. So without wasting time, let's welcome Chirag. Good evening, Chirag.
Good evening, Nishant, and thank you for having me for the show.
Okay. Chirag, my first question to you is that small cap funds are the top performers, especially over the last 1 and 3 year time frame. So why do you think that the rally will continue? And what is your outlook on small cap sectors for the next 3 years?
Yeah, Nishant, the way it goes, everyone is looking at last 1, 2 years performance and saying that, it's performed stupendously and therefore, it's all done and dusted. There could be, given the outperformance that we have seen, large caps have given 40% return, whereas small caps have given, sorry, large caps have given 15% return, whereas
Hmm.
small caps have given 35-40% return. And
Right.
everyone is just looking at that statistic and saying that, small caps बहुत बढ़ गए हैं, अभी इसके आगे नहीं बढ़ेंगे. So
Hmm.
that is the tune that we are hearing from everyone. But if you look at long-term performance, like 10, 15, 20-year performance of small cap and keep it stack to stack with large caps, the performance of large caps is very much in line or slightly above what large caps have delivered on a very long-term basis. So
Hmm.
in a sense, जो last 2 साल में हमने देखा है rally in the small caps is nothing but a catch-up rally. And
Okay.
catch-up rally can happen only in two situations.
Hmm.
One is when there is too much liquidity in the markets. What we saw in the period of 17, 18, when your small caps funds were rallying significantly, there was no earnings growth that time, but there was too much liquidity in the market chasing stocks. And therefore, that led to that run up in small cap stocks, and they were doing really well at that point in time. This time around, small caps are rallying because there is earnings growth.
Hmm.
Economy is doing fine. There is companies are doing fine. There is a lot of activity on the ground. Revenues are growing, which is translating into high earnings growth for companies, and that is allowing small cap companies to exponentially rise over last couple of years because earnings backing is backing. It's more fundamental led. So हमने देखा कि 1 साल का परफॉर्मेंस 2 साल का परफॉर्मेंस कुछ नहीं है मगर कैचअप परफॉर्मेंस है
Hmm.
which brings small caps in line to their long term returns where they should be. So overall, we don't see that froth because there is earnings support, there is fundamental support to it, and therefore it's not a period of 17, 18 where we had seen P's in relation to large caps become significantly skewed in favor of for small caps. And even with their own history, they were trading at 80 times, 100 times, and even above that kind of levels on a trailing basis. But currently, if you look at the long-term trend, say last 15 years, we are still slightly below the valuation, average valuation, but you need to remove the froth period of 16 to 18. If you remove that, फिर भी small caps are only slightly above the long-term average of valuation. And that is because there is earnings support to the story. इसलिए हमें नहीं लगता है कि there has been everything is over for small caps. We
Hmm.
still see that there will economy wise we are doing well. Small
Hmm.
cap companies selectively will do really well. And when it comes to aggregate, अगर आप index की बात करें, so yes, I can understand that what you're saying is to some extent true because some sectors have rallied so much, but
Hmm.
there is opportunity in other places
Hmm.
which kind of drives us to look at the small cap space, and we find it very very interesting.
And in terms of valuation, you are okay with the current valuation in the market, especially in the long, short, small cap segment?
So as I said, vis-a-vis large caps also if you put it, or vis-a-vis its own history you put it, and remove the froth period of over last 15 years that we saw in between 16 to 18, वो निकालने के बाद भी we are only slightly above the long term average.
Hmm.
और earnings growth अभी भी बढ़ रहा है. But I
अच्छा.
can understand that certain sectors, for example, certain companies in capital goods sector, for example, have
Hmm.
rallied so much that they look expensive. Even with the earnings growth coming in for that sector, they look expensive. But
Hmm.
there are sectors, there are pockets of opportunities, say in the BFSI space, say in the auto ancillary space. There is too much activity going on, and there are many emerging and budding sectors that look very, very promising because there is a government thrust. There is, room for them to expand more, which will drive its earnings growth, and therefore they don't look very, very expensive to us. So if you have to invest in index, yes, I will be uncomfortable. But can I create a good portfolio portfolio of companies that are growing and still available at a reasonable valuation, yes, I can select 30, 40, 50 companies which are looking at very, very attractive, which are having that trait, and therefore we are comfortable on a certain stocks from a valuation standpoint.
चिराग, एक न्यूज पढ़ा था मैंने थोड़े दिन पहले, तो उसमें बोल रहे थे कि इंडियन इन्वेस्टर्स आर बाइंग स्मॉल कैप एंड DIIs आर सेलिंग इट. So what is your view on this?
DIIs are selling it.
Yes, small cap
Okay.
stocks FIIs are selling it.
सो देखिए निशांत, FIIs का जो एलोकेशन है इंडिया में बहुत छोटा है. अगर बड़े इन्वेस्टर्स ले लीजिए, पेंशन फंड, सॉवरेन फंड्स एक्सेट्रा, उनका एलोकेशन इंडियन मार्केट्स में %0.5 है ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो. इंडिया का GDP वेट है 3% इन द ग्लोबल वर्ल्ड. सो दे आर वेरी वेरी अंडर एलोकेटेड टू इंडिया. एंड स्मॉल कैप स्पेस में उनका एलोकेशन बहुत ही कम है. उनका ज्यादा लिक्विड नेम्स में, लार्ज कैप नेम्स में ज्यादा एलोकेशन है as opposed to small caps. So I don't think that we should read too much into what FIIs are doing in the small cap space. Small cap is more budding sectors, emerging sectors, more domestic story, domestic investment story. और जब भी वो consistently बढ़ते हैं and उनका return profile काफी अच्छा होता है overall, तो वहां पे वो FIIs, DIIs वो कंपनीज को देखने चालू करते हैं. So overall, I think FIIs तो large cap space में ज्यादा रहते हैं. Small cap space में it's more domestic activity. इसलिए you need to look at from that perspective.
Chirag, one question that I'm curious about. So quantum has been around for the last 17 years.
Yes.
So why small cap fund now?
So हमें ये क्वेश्चन काफी बार लास्ट एक महीने में हमने सुना है काफी लोगों से. Are we late to the party करके. No, not really. अगर रूल्स देखें ओवरऑल इन्वेस्टिंग के, जो सेबी फ्रेम करता है रूल्स इन सम सेंस, वो काफी चेंज हो गए हैं. सो अगर देखें तो अभी मार्केट कैप का स्प्लिट देखेंगे ना, तो सिर्फ 100 कंपनी है जो लार्ज कैप में है, उसके बाद 150 कंपनी है जो मिड कैप में है, वो 250 कंपनी छोड़े लार्ज और मिड में, तो उसके बाद जो भी स्टॉक्स है वो स्मॉल कैप स्टॉक्स है. 250 फर्स्ट स्टॉक से जो भी चालू होता है वो सब स्मॉल कैप स्टॉक्स है. तो मीनिंगफुल मार्केट कैप की भी बात करूं, 1,000 करोड़ मार्केट कैप से अब ऊपर के कंपनीज स्मॉल कैप में जो 250 फर्स्ट स्टॉक से नीचे हैं और 1,000 करोड़ के ऊपर है, वो भी 900 से ज्यादा कंपनी है. तो इतना बड़ा यूनिवर्स है, और इतना बड़ा यूनिवर्स मतलब उतनी ज्यादा अपॉर्चुनिटी सेट, राइट. सो एक तो अपॉर्चुनिटी बहुत बड़ी है, और हमने देखा है कि इंडस्ट्री में हम एक इश्यूज देख रहे हैं विथ रिगार्ड्स टू पोर्टफोलियो कंस्ट्रक्शन. क्योंकि कई सारे फंड्स हैं जिसमें साइज इतनी बढ़ गई है, और साइज बढ़ने की वजह से नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स भी बहुत बढ़ गए हैं. सो हमें लगता है कि हमारी रिसर्च, हमारी गवर्नेंस जो बहुत जरूरी है स्मॉल कैप में आपको ध्यान में रखने के लिए, वो वो बहुत ही क्रिटिकल होता है स्मॉल कैप फंड स्टॉक सिलेक्ट करने के लिए. और हमारे पास 1990 से एक्सपीरियंस है इक्विटी मार्केट्स में इंडिया में एज अ ग्रुप. एंड हमारा गवर्नेंस पे एक इंटेग्रिटी स्क्रीन होता है. जो कंपनीज खराब गवर्नेंस है, जो उनका गवर्नेंस अच्छा नहीं है, हम उन्हें हाथ भी नहीं लगाते. सो ओवरऑल ये दो ट्रेड स्मॉल कैप के लिए बहुत जरूरी होते हैं, और हमें लगता है कि हम अच्छा पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर्स को दे सकें जिसमें मीनिंगफुल वेट हो, लिक्विडिटी के इश्यूज ना हो, एक मार्केट कैप में ओनरशिप के जो इश्यूज आते हैं वो ना हो, और एक साइज को अध्ययन करके एक अच्छा पोर्टफोलियो इन्वेस्टर्स को दे सके. इसलिए हमें लगा कि ये राइट मौका है, एक लार्ज अपॉर्चुनिटी सेट और हमारी जो स्किल सेट है उनको मिला के एक अच्छा प्रोडक्ट बन सकता है. इसलिए हमने स्मॉल कैप फंड अभी लॉन्च किया.
Okay. So Chirag, there are a few fund houses who have restricted flows in their small cap funds, citing liquidity issue. So what is your comment about this?
सो निशांत, इसके लिए अगर आपकी इजाजत तो मैं थोड़े स्लाइड्स बताना चाहूंगा कि साइज बढ़ने की वजह से क्या इश्यूज आ रहे हैं इंडस्ट्री में. और अप्रोप्रिएट स्टेप है कि उन्होंने स्टॉप किए, मगर उनकी साइज अभी भी इतनी बढ़ गई है कि अभी भी वो इश्यूज आ सकते हैं ये साइज पे.
Okay.
So let me just share screen.
Sure.
So अगर ये स्लाइड देखें आप निशांत, सो ये स्लाइड में क्या देख रहे हैं हम कि ओवरऑल 47 फंड हाउसेज हैं इंडिया में अभी, और उसमें से सिर्फ 24 फंड हाउस के पास स्मॉल कैप फंड है। तो ऐसा ही नहीं है कि सभी के पास, ऐसा क्राउडेड ट्रेड नहीं हो गया है, फर्स्टली। सेकेंड इज, अगर देखें तो नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स उनके पोर्टफोलियो में 80 स्टॉक है ऑन एन एवरेज।
यस।
और अगर देखें तो नीचे फंड A to G दिया है हमने, और अलग अलग फंड अलग अलग साइज पे है। तो कोई फंड में 55 स्टॉक है, कोई में 90 स्टॉक है, कोई में 200 स्टॉक है, करीब करीब। और
यस।
इशू कहाँ आता है, एवरेज वेट 1.25% ट्रांसलेट होता है। मगर अगर आप नीचे के टेबल में चौथा कॉलम देखेंगे, तो उसमें नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स विद लेस देन 1% वेट, 1% से भी कम वेट वाले स्टॉक्स कितने हैं उनके पोर्टफोलियो में, तो किसी में 60 है, किसी में 50 है, किसी में 90 है। सो इसे हम बोलते हैं कि सब ऑप्टिमल पोजिशन। अगर आपके पोर्टफोलियो में 1% से कम वेट है, समझ लीजिए आधा टका वेट है या 0.6% वेट है, अगर वो स्टॉक्स डबल भी हो जाते हैं ना, तो आप सिर्फ आधा टका रिटर्न्स में ऐड करेंगे। सो ये स्टॉक्स में पोर्टफोलियो में होने से इतना ज्यादा फायदा नहीं आता है रिटर्न्स में ओवरऑल, और इस वजह से हमें लगता है कि सब ऑप्टिमल वेट है। और अगर आपके पास 90, 100, 200 स्टॉक है पोर्टफोलियो में, तो आप इंडेक्स जैसे बन जाते हैं। और इंडेक्स जैसे बनना है और ऐसे प्रोडक्ट में इन्वेस्ट करना है, तो एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट फी क्यों दे इन्वेस्टर्स। सो ओवरऑल ये एक ध्यान में रखना चाहिए कि हमारा जो मानना है, पोर्टफोलियो में एक कन्विक्शन होना चाहिए। जब म्यूचुअल फंड्स के पास इन्वेस्टर्स आते हैं या हमारे पार्टनर्स इन्वेस्टर्स को लाते हैं ओवरऑल, तो उनको अच्छा पोर्टफोलियो मिले, इसमें मीनिंगफुल वेट हो। क्योंकि वो फंड मैनेजर्स के पास इसलिए आते हैं कि उनके पास एक्सपर्टीज है, उनके पास रिसर्च है, उनके पास कन्विक्शन है। और कन्विक्शन है तो इतने ज्यादा स्टॉक लेने की क्या जरूरत है जिनका ओवरऑल रिटर्न्स में कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत कम हो। इसके लिए हमारा मानना है कि 40 से 60 स्टॉक ही पोर्टफोलियो में होने चाहिए। और नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स जो 1% से नीचे के वेट हो, वो सिर्फ 10 के आसपास होना चाहिए। वो भी इसलिए क्योंकि कई बार हम पोर्टफोलियो में कई नए स्टॉक लाते हैं या एग्जिट करते हैं, इसके लिए वो थोड़ा सा वेट होना चाहिए उधर। मगर उसके अलावा मीनिंगफुल वेट होना चाहिए, जैसे 2-3% के वेट होने चाहिए स्टॉक्स में, ताकि आपको उनका फायदा मिल सके ओवरऑल रिटर्न्स में। और अगर दूसरी स्लाइड देखें इसके बाद निशान, तो इसमें हम क्या देखते हैं कि अगर टॉप 10 फंड्स के टॉप 10 स्टॉक्स देख लें अगर आप, तो उसमें हम क्या देखते हैं कि काफी सारे स्टॉक्स इलिक्विड है। अ, हमारा मानना है कि 66 डेज, 3 महीने एक अच्छा टाइम फ्रेम माना जाता है, जिसमें आप फंड मैनेजर एंटर या एग्जिट कर पाए स्टॉक में से, उतने लिक्विड होने चाहिए एटलीस्ट। तो अगर बहुत सारे फंड्स में क्या देखते हैं, विद इन द टॉप 10, 60%, 70% ऑफ द पोर्टफोलियो 3 महीने में भी लिक्विडेट नहीं कर पाएंगे, वो बेच नहीं पाएंगे वो स्टॉक्स 3 महीने तक भी। अगर
यस।
रिडेम्पशन आता है और सेलिंग आता है, तो वो कहाँ से फंड्स रेस करेंगे, क्योंकि उनमें लिक्विडिटी इतनी नहीं है। और इसमें अगर फंड डी की बात करें, तो उसमें लिक्विडिटी अच्छी दिखती है, 24% ही इलिक्विड है। मगर
यस।
अगर टॉप 10 में लार्ज एंड मिड का प्रपोर्शन देखे तो 46% है। तो इससे क्या दिखता है कि आइदर लिक्विडिटी का इशू है, या तो फिर वो स्मॉल कैप फंड से बढ़कर लार्ज एंड मिड मिड में ज्यादा है। सो या तो सब ऑप्टिमल पोर्टफोलियो साइज है, या तो लिक्विडिटी का इशू है, या तो मैंडेट का प्रॉब्लम है कि स्मॉल कैप स्टॉक्स ज्यादा अपना जो कन्विक्शन होता है टॉप 10 के अंदर, वो ज्यादा मिड एंड लार्ज में लेके बैठते हैं। सो ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स है। और अगर कॉलम देखे, चौथा कॉलम जिसमें डेज टू लिक्विडेट लिखा है, उसमें कितने दिन लगेंगे उनको टॉप 10 में से कौन सा एक स्टॉक है जिसको सबसे ज्यादा दिन लगेंगे लिक्विडेट करने को। सो कोई किसी में 200 दिन है, किसी में 150 दिन है, किसी में 1600 दिन है, किसी में 500 दिन है। तो ओवरऑल कई सारे स्टॉक्स ऐसे हैं जिसको बहुत लंबा समय लगेगा लिक्विडेट करने के लिए। और अगर दूसरी चीज देखें कि काफी सारे स्टॉक्स हैं जिसमें उनका वेट 0.5, 0.6% है, मगर उनकी ओनरशिप ऑफ कंपनी जो है, पोर्टफोलियो होल्डिंग एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ मार्केट कैप, वो 7-8% के आसपास है। तो एक लार्ज ओनर जो है 8% ऑफ द कंपनी अपनी पोजीशन बेचने जाते हैं जो ऑलरेडी इलिक्विड है। क्योंकि लास्ट कॉलम देखेंगे तो उसके अंदर 160, 180, 200, 1600 दिन, 400 दिन लगेंगे उनको वो स्टॉक्स बेचने के लिए। ऐसी सिचुएशन में अगर कोई बड़ा ओनर 7-8% इक्विटी बेचना चाहता है, तो उनको कितने दिन लगेंगे, या तो उनका इम्पैक्ट प्राइस पे कितना होगा। सो ओवरऑल जैसे फंड की साइज बड़ी है, ये सब प्रॉब्लम्स आना चालू हो गए हैं। हमने देखा एक अभी इकोनॉमिक टाइम्स में एक आर्टिकल था, उसमें देखा था कि लास्ट ईयर जो उनका पोर्टफोलियो साइज था नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स के हिसाब से, और अभी जो नंबर ऑफ स्टॉक्स है उसमें 10% से 30% का एडिशन हुआ है। तो अगर 70 स्टॉक थे तो या तो 80 स्टॉक हो गए हैं, या तो 100 स्टॉक हो गए हैं पोर्टफोलियो में। ऐसा हमने देखा है। सो सो ये प्रॉब्लम्स आते हैं, चैलेंजेस आते हैं साइज बढ़ने के वजह से। सो अगर आपको लगता है कि आपके पोर्टफोलियो में ये सब इश्यूज हैं, और आपको लगता है कि स्मॉल कैप में ऑलरेडी थोड़ा रिस्क होता है ज्यादा एज कम्पेयर टू लार्ज कैप एंड मिड कैप, तो आपको ये एडिशनल रिस्क नहीं लेने चाहिए। तो आई थिंक वी कैन डिलीवर अ बेटर पोर्टफोलियो टू यू, विच लुक्स एट लिक्विडिटी, विच लुक्स एट मार्केट कैप एज अ परसेंटेज ऑफ होल्डिंग। एंड ये सब के वजह से क्या होता है, एक साइज डिटरमाइन होता है, एक कैपेसिटी डिटरमाइन होता है फंड्स फंड्स का, और वो फंड्स उसके ऊपर चले जाते हैं ना, तो प्रॉब्लम्स आना चालू हो जाते हैं। जैसे लास्ट स्लाइड में कहूंगा कि अगर फंड्स की बात करें, अगर समझो फंड साइज 5,000 करोड़ है कोई भी फंड का, और उसमें अगर मीनिंगफुल वेट लेते हैं जैसे कि मिनिमम 2%, तो 5,000 करोड़ पे 2% मतलब 100 करोड़ रुपया वो स्टॉक में डाल रहे हैं। 100 करोड़ रुपया वो स्टॉक में डाल रहे हैं, उनको 66 डेज में उनको एंटर करना है, एग्जिट करना है, तो उनको 1.5 करोड़ का वॉल्यूम पर डे चाहिए वो स्टॉक के अंदर, ताकि वो एंटर और एग्जिट इजीली कर पाए, ताकि स्टॉक में इनका उनका इम्पैक्ट ना हो। और अगर ये 1.5 करोड़ तो मिनिमम है, ये 1.5 करोड़ पूरा वॉल्यूम है, अगर वो पूरा वॉल्यूम होते हैं तो इम्पैक्ट जरूर आएगा। इसके लिए हम मानते हैं कि उनका पार्टिसिपेशन 1/3 से ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, और अगर 1/3 से कम होना चाहिए तो 4.6 करोड़ का वॉल्यूम चाहिए वो स्टॉक्स में, ताकि उनका इम्पैक्ट ना हो, ताकि पोर्टफोलियो लिक्विड रहे। इसके लिए ये थ्रेशोल्ड्स को अध्ययन करके चलना बहुत जरूरी है। और दूसरा चीज, अगर मेरे को रिस्क आता है जब मैं बड़ा ओनर बन जाता हूँ, इसके लिए वो ओनरशिप ऑफ दैट कंपनी भी कंट्रोल करना बहुत जरूरी है। हमारा मानना है कि 5% एक अच्छा थ्रेशोल्ड है जहां पे आपको वो रिस्क ज्यादा नहीं आता है। सो अगर 5% ऑफ द कंपनी के मार्केट कैप को मेरे को थ्रेशोल्ड पे अध्ययन करना है, मेरा मेरा होल्डिंग उससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए, तो 5,000 करोड़ के साइज पे मिनिमम मार्केट कैप चाहिए मेरे को 2,000 करोड़ ऑफ दैट कंपनी। सो अगर 5,000 का साइज है कोई भी फंड का, अगर वो ये थ्रेशोल्ड्स अध्ययन नहीं करता है, देन देर विल बी अ लिक्विडिटी प्रॉब्लम। और काफी सारे फंड्स इसके ऊपर के साइज के हैं, और जिसमें ये क्राइटेरिया हमने ऑब्जर्व होता हुआ नहीं देखा है, अध्ययन होता नहीं देखा है। इसके लिए देर कुड बी चैलेंजेस, और अब जाके फंड्स काफी बड़े हो गए हैं साइज में, तभी जाके वो अपना सब्सक्रिप्शन बंद कर रहे हैं। सो यस, देर इज अ चैलेंज ऑफ लिक्विडिटी, और लिक्विडिटी के ध्यान में रखते हुए एक सर्टन थ्रेशोल्ड ध्यान में रखना चाहिए, और वो अगर मीट नहीं करता है तो आप ज्यादा रिस्क ले रहे हैं वो फंड्स में।
Okay.
सो आई थिंक निशांत, ये थोड़ा लंबा आंसर था आपके क्वेश्चन के लिए, मगर ये दिखाना बहुत जरूरी था
Very
कि
comprehensive, and
नंबर्स।
we all understood the point.
क्योंकि निशांत, वॉट एवर
Setting
स्टोरी
up.
आई से इज अ
Yeah.
स्टोरी, बट
Right,
नंबर्स डोंट लाई, नंबर्स झूठ नहीं बोलते हैं।
right,
इसके
right.
लिए नंबर्स दिखाना बहुत जरूरी था।
Yeah, and good to know that you have, I mean, put up several checks and balances and points.
यस,
I mean, mitigate this kind of risk. So
करेक्ट।
before moving on, I request all the audience to use chat section to post your questions. And Chirag, we have some audience from South India, so they requested us to keep it in English. So we'll go ahead
इंग्लिश, ओके
this
ओके,
only. Okay.
श्योर।
So my next question to you, Chirag, is that there are many schemes in the small cap categories with good track records. In fact, there are schemes who have done exceptionally well over the past 5 years. So why should MFDs opt for quantum small cap fund?
So when everything is rising, right? We have seen a bull market last 2 years, and uh, everything is rising. So most of the fund performance will be looking very good today. But that performance is masking the risk that is there because of the size increasing significantly. And as I showed, either they have a problem of maybe suboptimal position or long tail portfolio, which, because today if I even have a 200 stock portfolio or 150 stock portfolio, 100 stock portfolio, most of the stocks are doing well. And therefore, it may seem like, prime performance is good. But when there is a stock specific performance market, when, everything is not going and it's a very selective market when you have to be very, very clear, then, those risks come upfront, are kind of in the open. And therefore, fund managers may not have that agility because there is liquidity problem. They need to shift out of that stocks into new stocks. And at a size, it becomes very, very difficult. So if you think that, you need to bank on a robust research process, on a good governance, and something that looks at liquidity, market cap, etc., thresholds, and invest on your behalf as a fund, then probably, you need to make that switch today. Because in a bull market, you will not be able to notice the risk that exist or are hidden in your funds, but that could change significantly over a period of time. So I think given currently nothing has gone wrong, we are still at a higher level. So today is an opportunity for you to make that switch.
So Chirag, I'm taking some audience questions.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Sridhar wants to understand that why small cap, why not mid cap?
I think that's a very good question. Today, if you see the way classification has happened, the large and mid are very, very constricted in size. Large cap universe is 100 stocks, and I have to pick from 80% of my portfolio has to be from that 100 stocks. Mid cap again is very, very constricted. It's 150 stock universe. I have to select 65% of the portfolio from that 150 stocks. Whereas small cap is such a large universe. I have meaningful market cap and liquidity, which is there for 900 plus stocks. And therefore, that is a very open area for me to capitalize on the opportunities that exist in that space. And therefore, we think that small cap is the right thing to go about in this market. And given there are challenges in other funds, other portfolio construction challenges that I spoke about, and therefore we think we can deliver well when there is a portfolio construction challenge in that space, given our experience in the market. So I think it bodes well for us to launch a small cap fund.
So another question that has come is about your fund management style. So what will you do? Will you keep profit and or will you stay invested till your conviction? So what would be your strategy? Buy and hold or shifting momentum?
So we are very, very disciplined investors overall. So we do a very deep dive when it comes to our stock selection. And therefore, we do have a buy and sell for every stock. And when we have a buy and sell for every stock, when the stock reaches a sell, it's not that we sell immediately. When it reaches a sell, we'll review that stock again because there could be something that we may have missed. So we'll do some channel checks, we'll meet the company, we'll understand what's going on. And if there is no room to upgrade our numbers, our earnings estimates, then probably there is no upside left in that stock. And whereas there is no upside left in the stock, it's prudent to sell out of that stock. But don't get us wrong. If there are good structural stories which keep compounding over a period of time, then we will continue to hold those stocks. But only when there is no upside left in that stock, it makes sense to just sell out of it and look for the next good opportunity.
Okay. So Chirag, Ritesh wants to understand whether you have put internal limit on a company specific investment. So he has given an example that if the company's market cap is 1,000 crore, so how much maximum you will be able to invest in that company?
So market cap, that's a very good question again. So market cap is very, very important when we look at stocks. Our criteria is we should buy minimum 2% at cost, at our portfolio cost into those companies. And second criteria is we don't want to be more than 5% of the market cap of the company. So whenever a stock is, we are able to deploy 2% in that stock while not exceeding 5% of the market cap of the company, we will look at all those stocks. So if you see that, if 1,000 crores is the market cap of that, then we will not exceed more than 5%, which is, more than 50 crores into that stock, right? So that is how we will go.
Okay. And Sachin wants to understand that how will you deal with liquidity issue if redemption happens? How will you deal with this issue?
So we do have a very good defined liquidity threshold. It's not that me telling you now, but it is there in the offer document. We will not buy any stock which trades less than 2 crores per day from a liquidity standpoint. And any stock that we buy and sell has to meet our criteria of being able to liquidate in 66 trading days. So it's not only at the time of buying, but we will continue to monitor those stocks on a consistent basis. And therefore, we will ensure that there is all the stocks in the portfolio are meeting the liquidity criteria. So it's not that some may just go below our threshold, we'll sell out of them. We'll continue to observe in terms of how the liquidity pans out for those stocks, and we will accordingly take that call.
Okay, before taking my next audience question, I will ask my question, which is related, which is similar to that. So in the past, Quantum Mutual Fund was known for taking large cash calls. So what would be your approach in managing small cap funds since liquidity is a challenge here?
So liquidity is not so much as a challenge, right? As I said,
Hmm.
it's a myth.
Hmm.
If I have a controlled capacity, controlled size to which I can adhere to given the market conditions, uh, I can very well manage the liquidity, like the desirable liquidity profile that we want, 2
Hmm.
crores and above, right?
Hmm.
And a meaningful market cap, there are still 900 plus stocks. So I think if you are cognizant of the size that you can manage,
Hmm.
liquidity is not a challenge. At, say, a very large size, of course, liquidity becomes a challenge. But if you ask me about 5,000, 6,000 crores, is liquidity a challenge? I don't think liquidity is a challenge. So we will be adhering to those liquidity criteria. And when it comes to investing or taking a cash call is not something that we take like we today we say that markets are expensive. Let's get into cash. That's not what we do. Cash is a residual in anything that we do. So if I am investing in small caps and say market has become very, very frothy, it does not make sense now, or there are no opportunities available which have upside, which is unlikely the case given the 900 plus stocks that exist with the meaningful criteria that we want. And therefore, there will always be opportunities. But if there are no opportunities, we have a leeway of utilizing the 35% into large, mid, and cash. Those are the
Hmm.
three things that we can deploy into. And probably there will be opportunities, some or the other places, which opportunistically we will be able to utilize. And in a very, very extreme scenario, there could be slight bulging up of cash. But otherwise, our endeavor is always to remain invested in good small cap companies at all point in time. And only when it has become unjustifiable or irrational, exuberance, that is the time that we could have to take that judicious call.
Okay. So Praveen wants to know that what should be the ideal duration to do SIP in small cap funds?
I think
How
small
much
cap
small
has
cap fund? Yeah. And how many small cap funds should an investor hold in their portfolio?
so I think a small cap has to be a very desirable portion of one's allocation, given the large opportunity that exists there. Because there is a clear case of India in growing well over the next 10, 20 years. We don't see that changing. We think India, it's a good time for India, and India will keep growing handsomely over next couple of decades. Given that space, and there are so many new businesses coming, niche areas coming, emerging sectors, so there will be a scope for small caps to do really well. Many of these small caps will go tomorrow become mid and large cap companies, as we have seen over last 10, 20, 30 years. So I think 10 to 15% allocation to small caps is what I think is ideal for anyone to have an allocation. And from a allocation perspective, it could be even one fund, or you could spread it into three funds, whatever you choose, you do. But when you choose a fund, please take into consideration, because when it comes to small cap investing, yes, it is slightly riskier, and therefore you allocate about 10 to 15% in that. So you're already taking some risk as compared to large cap investing in small caps. Don't increase that risk by overlooking factors like liquidity, market cap, which can be traps. Because what mutual funds should give you is a transactable NAV. It shouldn't happen that I am stuck in illiquid stocks when every one of your clients give us redemptions. We are not able to sell them, and therefore the stock price falls, and what was the profit on paper remains profit on paper and does not translate into real returns. That shouldn't happen. And therefore, these liquidity criterias, market cap criterias, and the defined capacity that is supported by liquidity and market cap is very, very essential when you look at a small cap fund.
So Anirudh wants to understand that there was a time when quantum was not, I mean, do not have conviction on mid cap stocks. So he wants to understand that how the philosophy has changed over time.
So it was not that we didn't have conviction on mid cap stocks. For a mid cap fund, because we think what we should give clients is that whatever is our ability to deliver, right? So we have been researching, we have been holding mid cap, small cap stocks in our other funds as well. In the value fund, in the ESG fund, we have been owning those companies, and we have been researching this space since a very long time, since 2008. We have been looking and internally covering many of the small cap companies. And now we think that it's the right time to launch a small cap fund given the constricted space that exists in other places, as opposed to small caps, which is a large opportunity set because of the regulatory changes that we have seen. And I think that is where we are launching this fund. So we will never offer something that we don't have the ability to deliver on a portfolio.
Okay. So Chirag, there are a lot of fund specific questions that are coming. So
Sure.
why not you, highlight some traits of the quantum small cap funds?
Of course. So I think I also have a very good slide on that. I will just quickly open that and so that everyone can also see it. So overall, what we bring to the table when it comes to small cap, we will be very cognizant of the liquidity and market cap criteria. We will be very important consideration for us. And given the liquidity and market cap, there will always be a capacity number which can increase over a period of time. But at any given point in time, there is a capacity number. We urge the regulator, to bring this as an important trait when funds disclose a lot of information. The capacity number should also be disclosed, because when you're buying, or what you're looking at the historical track record, the fund say has 100 stocks in the portfolio, so every average weight is 1%. And over a period of time, because of inflows, they kind of increase the size holdings of funds or holding of stocks in the portfolio, and say they become 200 stock portfolio, so they have become 0.5% size. So what you saw earlier as a track record and invested is no longer true. The characteristics has completely changed from a holding perspective, and therefore we don't want to offer anything of that sort, because what you expect, because the capacity is very, very important trade. Like when you buy a car, say if the plant has 10,000 cars as the capacity, you don't ask the company that which is the car you're giving me. Is it the 500 car, is it 1,000 car, or is it 10,000 car? You think that till the capacity has been adhered to, you will get the same quality. Even in mutual funds, the same is true. No matter the fund manager investing the first rupee, the 5,000 crore rupee or 500 crore rupee, whatever it is, it should be invested in the same way. If you are kind of deviating, then the characteristics changes. So what you bought as an apple could have become a banana now because of the size increasing, and therefore the portfolio characteristics changing of the fund. So we think those are important considerations, and we bring that discipline, and we will close the fund whenever we reach the capacity. We think we have strong research capabilities to navigate a large universe that exists, because we have a pedigree since 1990 in the Indian markets as a group. So we have seen many of those kind of stocks. We have met many companies. We do a lot of channel checks. We do a lot of groundwork. And therefore, we think we have large and solid research teams to help us get the good opportunities in this space. We think governance and management quality are very, very important in the small cap space. No matter you identified the right sector, the right business, but if there is a problem with governance, probably you may not make as much returns. Your returns may be compromised because of the poor governance that exists into those stocks. So that trait is very, very important in a small cap company, because there is lesser history of promoters. Quantum as a group since 1996 has a integrity screen in place, which kind of helps us sift out good and bad management. And therefore, our experience and that integrity screen help us with knowing which promoters to trust. In the small cap space, given though many of you all know us as value managers, but we think the approach that works in a small cap space is growth at reasonable price, because you need to identify those fast growing companies, but you should be mindful of the valuations you pay for buying those stocks, and therefore growth at reasonable price, because many people kind of chase growth in the small cap segment, but if everything is the price, then there is no upside. Your holding period increases, but you don't make much returns on those stocks. And therefore, you need to be mindful of valuations. We are happy to pay fair valuations for a fast growing company, but because that also gives us upside into those stocks. But we will not compromise on the upside. And therefore, the approach that works here is growth at reasonable price. And we will have a long-term approach to capitalize on the opportunities that small businesses offer. We will be looking at the longevity of backing good companies, good governed companies, and good potential companies, so that we can add meaningful returns for investors in the fund. So that is what we bring to the table, Nishant, and I think it is a very, very differentiated offering from what we see today.
Okay. So Chirag, while we are running out of time, but we'll take some quick questions.
Sure.
Audience. So will you also restrict fund inflows if you reach a certain size?
Yes, we will stop inflows if we reach a certain size. Yes, because if there is no liquidity and market cap that supports, then probably there is no way, because we will be compromising on future potential returns that we can make and fall into the trap of illiquidity, which we don't want for our partners and their investors.
Okay. So which kind of sectors you're looking at? Can you highlight some of the sectors?
Sure. So there are many sectors that are emerging and looking very, very attractive. The financial inclusion theme is very, very good and robust. We think our penetration from a financial perspective is only going to increase. So many emerging themes within that space, like small finance banks. If you look at things like broking, if you see things like mutual fund distribution, all these are not part of the large cap bucket, but they're in the small cap, which offers good opportunities. Auto ancillaries is a big opportunity, and within that space, the auto ancillaries, which are part of the EV ecosystem, is a big opportunity. So as an OEM of an EV, I can only offer a certain offer to certain set of my customers, or try to grab that Gen Z who's looking to buy an EV. But as an auto ancillary in the EV space, I can cater to all of those OEMs and also tap on the export opportunity that exists today. So there are many things. Healthcare is a big thing, because many companies are looking at China plus one kind of strategy, and therefore, CDMO, or be it API, all that looks very, very promising from a healthcare perspective. So there are many, many levers that we see. Renewable energy, for example, or be it EMS as a sector, electronic manufacturing services, is a good budding sector. So there are many themes that are there in the small cap space looking very, very attractive.
So what would be your allocation to small cap companies?
So as a rule, we have to deploy the NFO proceeds in 2 months. So within the 2 months period, 1 month is there, and 1 month with the internal approvals we can extend. So it becomes 2 months. So within that 2 months, we will have to deploy at least 65% in small caps, which I don't see it as a challenge, because there are many opportunities available which are growing fast and available under attractive valuation. So I think we could be looking at that space, and we should be able to fill the portfolio with meaningful 30, 40, 50 companies in that space.
Okay. So some market participants are expecting correction in the days to come. So do you think that it is the right time to enter small cap funds?
So there could be corrections. Corrections can't be ruled out. So if you see last few years, the corrections, barring the COVID period, corrections have been very, very tepid and short-lived, right? So it's very difficult to time those corrections or time those markets. But if you're finding a good opportunity today, which is available at a reasonable valuation, why not to look at it? So fundamentally, the valuation comfort, the growth that companies offer will act as a cushion, and therefore, even if there is a correction, those stocks may fall lesser, and that is what we are banking on. Because corrections, may not come. Uh, it is like everyone feared that there is a war starting between Israel and Gaza, which is a long stretch war and involve many other countries, but that didn't pan out the way it did, right? And markets suddenly bounce back after 1 or 2 days of fall. So so it's very difficult to time those. What we can do as fund managers is to identify the right companies, right opportunities available at a good valuation, and therefore that acts as a cushion. If there is a fall, we'll be happy to buy more.
Okay. So one last question I'm taking, and rest of the questions, guys, we will, quantum team will reach out to you and answer those questions to you. One last question is that, so you talked about governance, right? How
Yeah.
will you identify that the company has a good governance?
So we have certain forensic accounting things that we look at. We look at companies, we meet managements, we visit their plants, factories, etc. We do a lot of channel checks. We talk to who they supply to or who are their vendors, etc. We do a lot of channel checks, groundwork ourselves. Our team goes and visits those companies, etc. And therefore, that gives us an edge in terms of identifying what are good and bad companies. So one is looking at data in terms of how the company has done their capital allocation decisions, how they have treated minority shareholders, various other things in like related party transactions, etc. We go very much deep into and look at that forensics that help us differentiate companies, and then backed by qualitative groundwork helps us identify those good governance and bad governance practices. So as I said, we have built an integrity screen since 1996, and many blow-ups that we have seen in Indian markets, we have been able to avoid most of them. So that tells us, our approach has been working well for us, and therefore we will be able to identify good and bad governance companies. We may make mistakes, but I think given our experience, given the way we approach it, there is lesser scope of making mistakes in that segment.
So, all right, we have come to an end to this interesting session. Thank you so much, Chirag, for your valuable time and inputs.
Thank you, Nishant, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We will be a shout away if you want to talk to us, know more things from us. But if you think that you're invested in a small cap fund that has risk associated with it, please consider the Quantum Small Cap Fund. It's an opportunity for you to make that switch into something that promises to not take those additional risk and fall into the traps of illiquidity. So NFO is open till 27th of October. Please do consider and have your investors invest with us. Thank you.
And friends, I could not take all the questions, but definitely Team Quantum will help you resolve your queries. And I thank each one of you for being such a wonderful audience. Have a great day at work, guys. Bye.